He's a member of the Intelligence and Homeland Security Committees. He's also a former CIA officer. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Wolf, good to be with you.
What message does it send that the President of the United States didn't even have the courtesy to personally call the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, and inform him that he was being fired?
Well, I don't know what message it sends. I probably wouldn't have handled personnel decisions that way. The one thing that I will say, knowing Mike Pompeo, Mike recognizes the need to boost morale in the State Department. Your previous reporter was talking about that. I've heard that from some of my friends that are still there. Mike had to deal with a similar situation, taking over the CIA. There was a lot of change happening in the CIA. Rank and file were frustrated with some of the changes. He was able to come in and ready to ship. And Mike understands the importance of making sure the rank and file are behind you and have job satisfaction. So I think that's important. But he also, I think, recognizes the need that he needs to be in lockstep with General Mattis. I think the Secretary Tillerson and General Mattis relationship was important. It was a reason that we've had some diplomatic successes. And the fact that you have China working with the United States against North Korea, you have the potential of a sit-down talk with North Korea. Part of that is because of the work that Secretary Tillerson had done in his diplomatic role. So Mike Pompeo understands the issue, and the fact that he's coming from the CIA is going to be good. He's been dealing with these issues. He's met a lot of these foreign leaders, and so I think his learning curve is not going to be as steep as someone who hasn't been in these issues over the last year and a half.
The president will nominate Gina Haspel to become the new CIA director. She'll have to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Senator John McCain had this to say, as career CIA official, quote, "The torture of detainees in U.S. custody during the last decade was one of the darkest chapters in American history. The Senate must do its job in scrutinizing the record and involvement of Gina Haspel in this disgraceful program." You were in the CIA during this period as well. How do you respond to Senator McCain?
Well, first off, this wasn't Gina's idea. She was following orders. The Attorney General at the time and the President at the time had said this was lawful. And you have to remember where we were at that moment. I'm thinking that another attack was going to happen. I was the fourth employee in the unit on September 12, 2001 that started prosecuting the war in Afghanistan. And at that moment, if you would have said it would have been 17 years before another major attack, I would have said you were crazy. We thought another one was coming. Now, history, hindsight is 2020, but I think saying that Gina was responsible for this, yes, she implemented orders and was doing her job. Gina is a solid professional. She has great experience. She's smart, she's talented, she's tough. She has the support of the rank and file, and having, there's not going to be much of a transition issue with her going from the deputy position to the head of the CIA. She's going to answer all the questions. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting confirmation process, but it's really exciting, and it's also exciting to have the first female to potentially lead such an important organization.
Yeah, she'll have to answer a whole bunch of questions during that confirmation process. Let's turn, Congressman, to your work on the House Intelligence Committee, your Republican report. We got the gist of it yesterday. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence says they stand by the January 2017 report on Russian meddling in the election. But earlier today, you said they relied in that January 2017 report on what you called substandard intelligence. That's quite an accusation. Why do you think the House Intelligence Committee Republicans are in a better position to make that assessment than the major U.S. intelligence agencies, not only the ones that existed during the Obama administration, but during the Trump administration as well?
Great question, Wolf, but let me make sure to clarify that. I completely support the fact that the Russians tried to manipulate our elections. This is something that all Republicans agree on the committee. This is something that the Democrats on this committee agree. But when it comes to the analytical judgment that this was done in order to favor one candidate or the other, that information was relying on substandard reporting. It was stuff that when it was originally collected, that was left, in essence, on the cutting room floor and wasn't included in this report until after the fact. I've read all the underlying intelligence. I've read all the underlying operational cables that supported some of these issues, and we also talked to senior analysts within the organization about the process of which the ICA was made didn't follow some of the standard process. Now, why were the other agencies that agreed with the ICA and all the elements of the ICA? Did they know about the process that went through? Did they assume that it was handled the way that most kind of intelligence assessments were? I don't know the answer to that. But let me be clear: we're not criticizing the men and women within the CIA that collect information. To be honest, when this information was collected at first, it was handled properly. The case officers, everybody involved in this, was doing the right thing. The question is how folks at the end of the process used what can be considered as substandard reporting.
So you consider that obviously a major blunder. I'll just point out the statement that was released by Brian Hale. He's the spokesman, the current spokesman for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, headed by Dan Coates. The statement is this: the intelligence community stands by its January 2017 assessment assessing Russian activities and intentions in recent U.S. elections. We will review the House Permanent Select Committee Intelligence Committee report findings, but as of now, they disagree with you. They clearly stand with the original assessment, which was done more than a year ago. But on that point, we'll see what happens down the road.
Absolutely, Wolf. And I think, I don't know at that point if they've seen our report. It's a draft report. It's about 150 pages.
Well, you haven't released it publicly yet. We have none of us have seen it.
Right. No, absolutely, because it has to go through the declassification process as well. We're also getting input from our Democratic colleagues. We'll be taking feedback from the intelligence community as well, and that's why it's a draft report. Unfortunately, when it comes to classified stuff, things get leaked and people talk about it before we're able to get all the details out into the public domain. Yeah,
well, we'll see if the intelligence community then and now has made a major blunder, which you suggest is the case. We'll find out fairly soon.
And Wolf, and again, with the agreement is that the Russians were trying to get involved and manipulate our elections, and so we need to move to the point where how do we make sure that we're protecting ourselves from that in the future.
Congressman Hurd, thank